Hello, I'm Tessa Ron, and I picked Bill Martin Jr. as my author study. Bill Martin Jr. was named America's favorite children's author. He started publishing books in 1945, with his first book being The Story of the Firefly. Bill Martin Jr. wrote for over 60 years and published over 300 children's books. With the illustrative work of Eric Carle, Bill Martin Jr.'s classic text, Brown Bear, What Do You See?, became one of his most famous children's books. Bill Martin Jr. was elected for the Reading Hall of Fame by the International Literacy Association. Here are the pictures of some of his books. This is Brown Bear, What Do You See?, Polar Bear, What Do You Hear?, and Panda Bear, What Do You See? When I was reading in some of the biographies written by Bill Martin Jr., he told the story of how he wrote Brown Bear. I wrote Brown Bear, What Do You See? On a Long Island Railroad train. I got on the train at one station, and by the time I arrived at Penn Station, he had completed the book. Bill Martin Jr. has a unique writing style. He believes that he does not write the books, he talks them. For his writing process, he talks out the words of his book many times, making sure that he is saying what he means. Once he knows that all that he has written is done correctly, then he types it up and writes it down. He also said in his biography, I had the entire story worked out in my head. Nobody else could share the joy that I was feeling about the story until I got to my office. Many times, the people that were sitting behind him or children in front of him would look at him and see what he was writing and be interested in his book. As a child, Bill Martin Jr. was not able to have any books in his house. The first time that he had picked up a text was when he had went to the public library and picked up the book by Palmer Cox, The Brownies. Bill Martin Jr. never was able to read until he went to college, which was a very unusual thing for a college student. Although Bill Martin Jr. was lucky enough to have the sweet teacher, Miss Davis. Miss Davis was a teacher that changed the way that Bill Martin thought about reading. Miss Davis was a teacher in his life that read to him. In his biography, he quoted, "Of course, she was reading to all of the other students in the classroom too, but I believed she was reading just to me because I was a non-reader. Miss Davis never missed a day reading to us." Bill Martin Jr., he was extremely influenced by Miss Davis. She often read more than normal because the students begged her to continue to read. This is important as an early childhood education major to read to your students. You have such a great influence on your students, and showing them text and reading to them is a great way to influence them. Bill Martin Jr. went to college, and throughout college, many of his professors thought that he was lazy and unprepared. Although we all know that that was untrue. They never suspected that he was a student that actually couldn't read. He felt that Miss Davis had taught him how to use his ears as a tool for literacy language. Bill Martin Jr. finished college, earned his master's degree, and went on for his doctorate degree at Penn State. When he finished all of that, he became a teacher, then a school principal, a textbook editor, and finally completed his career as an author. As I said, Bill Martin Jr. does not write his work as an author, he speaks it. He finished his last 11 years of life in Texas. Now, if you or I would go to Texas today, you can visit the Bill Martin Jr. Library. In that library, it has a collection of his published works, manuscripts, and letters from the greats in children's literacy located there. He also has all of his honorary degrees displayed at that library. A quote from Bill Martin Jr. that I felt that was important to me was, I had a blessed thing happen to me. I had a teacher who read to me. Obviously, he is talking about Miss Davis in this quote, but I feel that I had a great experience as a student as well because my teachers read to me. Reading to your students is important as a early childhood education teacher or even an elementary teacher like Miss Davis. Even so, from the beginning, I associated the ability to read with a lifelong well-being, and Miss Davis was the one that gave him that opportunity in his life. Now, years later, I have learned to search the page for a voice of the text in determining whether to devote reading time to an unfamiliar book. This is Bill Martin's way of using his ears instead of his eyes or his mouth for reading. He has a very unique style of reading and writing his books, and that is the way that he learned, since as a child he never had the availability to have books in his home. In this context, the voice and comprehension are synchronized. Some of the books that I reviewed of Bill Martin Jr.'s, the first one was Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. I felt that Chicka Chicka Boom Boom was a great book. As a child, this was always one of my favorites. When the students are able to look at the page and look at the letters that are in the book and how they all climb up the Chicka Chicka Boom Boom tree, and then when they all fall, the capital letters, being the parents, come and help the baby letters, the lowercase, and the students are able to see the capital A with the lowercase a. Another book that I thought that was good for students to help reading and everything would be 10 Little Caterpillars. 10 Little Caterpillars was a great book for them to learn about their numbers, which I think is an incredibly hard concept for students to grasp. I'm a preschool teacher right now, and so I'm trying to teach my preschoolers how to understand letters, and this was one of the books that I used as them as an experiment to see how they picked up on it. I think it's fun for the students to see the bright colors on the pages, the patterns. They get to count the caterpillars and see how many they are, and they can start to understand that 1 represents 1 caterpillar, 2 represents 2 caterpillars, and so on and so forth. Another book that he had written about numbers, which is great, was Rock It, Sock It, Number Line. I thought this was another great book that helped to have students learn about numbers. It's fun, it's silly, the illustrations are great. They're able to see how just fun and upbeat books can be. Even though you're learning, you can hide it by using fun and entertaining activities that hold students' attention. Of course, my favorite books that he has written were the Brown Bear, Polar Bear, Panda Bear books. With the work of Eric Carle as the illustrator, Bill Martin's classic text, Brown Bear, became his most famous book. Like I had said, Brown Bear is such a fun book to learn about how the colors of the purple horse can be imaginative compared to the blue fish and everything else. Bill Martin Jr. worked really hard to bring other concepts into his books, whether he tried to or not. You're able to memorize sequence of events and using your imagination. All of those things are great for students. Even though they don't realize they're doing it, they're learning really valuable skills to use for the rest of their lives. Some of the other books that he has written would be Tops and Bottoms. That was one of his earlier books. One of his other earlier books was Kitty Cat, Are You Waking Up? The Turning of the Year, that's all about seasons and how we use different clothes and different events happen in different seasons and all of that. The Little Squeaky Bug was another one, and that was a fun book just about night and all the activities. I thought that Bill Martin Jr. was a great author study. I learned a lot, and it was fun to learn about all the different things that he's done in his life. He's accomplished very much, from going from not knowing how to read and only being exposed to one book and having a teacher who read to him, and going into college not having any ability to read, all the way to becoming a teacher, a principal, a textbook editor, all the way to an author. I think that he shows how it doesn't matter what you come from when you're little, you can become all the way up here when you're an adult. Your life is what you make of it. And I think Bill Martin Jr. was a great guy to show that to students. I think he was a good influence on students in showing them all that you can accomplish and how reading can be fun and how you can use your other senses, not only just your eyes, to use reading as a tool. So I learned a lot from my Bill Martin Jr. author study, and I enjoyed this activity.